another amazing, amazing woman who is known for her amazing quality work. I don't think you've ever been called a bitch. I think actually one of the top execs at the organization that you work at the other day said that you were sunshine in human form, and that's probably a very lovely thing to say. Morgan is into marketing. She's amazing at what she does, but she's also an incredible human who is just a sponge for information, for amazingness. We're so grateful that you're part of our founding alumni for She Evolves and that you're coming back again this year. Today, she's going to talk about authenticity and putting on your oxygen mask first. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see. How are we going? All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I think this is really interesting. It was awesome to hear you guys. And Vanessa, I think I have quite a similar message, which is really lovely as well. I'm here to chat about making friends with the imposter. Burnout turned out to be one of the best things to happen to me, which is a strange thing to say. Until then, I was trying to fit into a cookie cutter mold of someone that I thought I was supposed to be. And my imposter syndrome had me convinced that I should work twice as hard as everyone else, working half a day before the day even began, trying to get on top of a never-ending tidal wave of work. And in trying to be all things to all people, the straight A student, the clean inbox, the clear desk, I failed myself and I burned out, just trying to help others burn bright. And ultimately, I had to learn to change just to survive. And I thought that slowing down would be detrimental to my career, but instead, to my surprise, discarding the pursuit of perfection has actually helped me become a more effective leader. And I'm really excited to talk with you today about how making friends with your imposter and showing up as your authentic self can unleash your potential and, frankly, make the world a better place too. But first, a journey into my past. Years ago, in a leadership development course at work, sitting in an auditorium with lots of other new people managers, up on the screen said, "Morgan Lee's leadership value is kindness." My mouth went dry. How could kindness be a leadership value that felt weak, unprofessional? I wondered whether I could take the test again without anyone noticing, get something a bit more aspirational, a little bit more worthy of leadership. The other managers were looking around in the conference room, looking at themselves up on the screen and seeing really worthy leadership qualities: bravery, perseverance, wisdom. Would being kind help to propel me up the career ladder? Not likely. Cut to 2 years later. Driving through a tunnel on the way home from work. Suddenly I found it hard to breathe. It felt like something was compressing into my chest and I was rising outside of my body, watching. I wasn't confident about where the barriers were in the road or which way the road was heading. There was nowhere to pull over. I was on a highway, so instinctively I wound all of the windows down to shock myself with air and turned the stereo on as loud as I could and tried to sing along. And that was enough to bring me back to my senses, just to get home safely. That was my first panic attack. And that would happen again and again over a number of weeks. My heart would beat. I wouldn't be able to focus. And I think this is it. I'm gonna die. My doctor, unsurprisingly, was concerned about my stress levels. My hair had started falling out. I was trying to convince myself there was nothing. The panic attack meant that I was hyperventilating, and that meant that my ribs were popping out. That was the ache in my side. And the sore feet that I'd been struggling with for a number of months turned out to be the beginning of a really aggressive case of rheumatoid arthritis. I learned that I had been in fight or flight for so long that my immune system had actually started attacking itself. I was so ashamed. All this time I'd been convinced that I was a hero for pushing through and for just getting one more thing done. Productivity is really good, right? Not when you push yourself that hard for that long. That was the realization of my undoing and the beginning of my ultimate rebuilding. I have been working myself into a bit of an early grave, trying to prove myself worthy for my job because I don't hold a university qualification, don't own my own home, and I don't come from money. Instead, I convinced myself that I needed to work twice as hard as everyone else to feel like I belonged. Keeping that sense of shame pushed deep down meant that I isolated myself in my perspective. I had no idea how many other people were feeling that way. Now I wish I'd known just how important that imposter is at the table. Every voice in the room with a different background brings a really different perspective, and multiplying those can create a tapestry of insights and enable a really rich discussion, better work than a group with a common view could ever produce. Not only this, but the world has also changed. The number of threats to our personal health and safety have been almost unbelievable. So much so that the Collins Dictionary announced its word of the year for 2022 as permacrisis, defined as an extended period of instability and insecurity. We as a collective have been forced to pivot and adapt as we've navigated from one crisis to another, weather events to pandemics to geopolitical tensions and more. But despite one catastrophic event after another, we've carried on as though nothing has changed. But the personal impact adds up. Our mental load and fatigue quietly increase, the little chips in our armour wearing us down slowly. The social psyche is tired, and what we need is restorative. 2022's Great Resignation study showed that 40% of those surveyed were planning to leave their jobs in the short term. And now this year in 2023, Dr. Daniel Selling, who's the CEO of Williamsburg Therapy Group, has predicted that this year we will see record rates of burnout, anxiety, and depression. Patterns on this scale signal that needs are not being met at a macro level. The world has changed, and our needs have changed with it. I believe that there's a really powerful role for leaders to play. Leaders have a significant impact on the well-being of their people and are the largest influence on an employee's work experience, be it positive or negative. And whilst the frightening rate of churn and burnout are not the fault of leaders, they do indicate that the old way doesn't work anymore, and the way that we lead actually needs to change. Sarah shared this the other day, and I absolutely love it. According to a recent study, managers have the greatest impact on employee mental health, 69% on par with their partner, and more significant than the influence of their doctor or their therapist. And the number one cultural aspect that employees are now seeking when looking for a new job is an atmosphere where I feel comfortable being myself. It makes perfect sense. We are hardwired to seek a group where we can belong. Going back to the caveman days, working as a group would significantly enhance our chances of survival. Not everyone could hunt, heal, take care of small children, and we learned that participating in a group would allow us to benefit from the strengths of others, while they in turn benefited from the strengths that we could bring. So I believe that now the future of leadership is empathic. Astute leaders have recognised that the world has changed, and so have the needs of their people. The emerging leadership style that is critical to supporting employee well-being is a servant leadership. That is the leader focused on inspiring and empowering and enabling their team. I think that leaders really need to model authenticity, vulnerability, empathy, prioritize their own well-being, which starts with leaders discarding the cookie cutter mold themselves. And simply, when we show up as a real human, complete with our own strengths and weaknesses, our team can feel safe to be themselves too. It took me to burnout to realize that I couldn't be all things to all people, and in fact, being myself was a much better alternative. If I hadn't, I'd still be that imposter, stuck in that hamster wheel, constantly telling myself that it'd all be better once we were through that rough patch. And worse, I'd be modeling that same pace-setting behavior for my people, implying that that's what's expected to be successful. Burnout taught me that there are a number of hours in the day, and my self-care is just as important as caring for others and the work that needs to be done. I burned out leading a team of 11. Today, 2 years on, I have a highly engaged, high-performing team of 25 who are empowered, hitting their targets, and have a staff satisfaction or ENPS score of 88%. In fact, not only are they hitting their targets, they're winning industry awards and international recognition for their work. And last year, I was named one of the leaders of the year in an organisation of more than 40,000. Learning to prioritise myself did not come at the expense of my work. It made me a better leader. Without learning to befriend the imposter in my head, I would never have learned how to take up space. I would not have learned how to name my own strengths or followed my own, or feel my own true north. I definitely would not have found my way here today. So, my hope for you is that you too will choose to break free from the mold that you think you should be to be successful, because that mold will never have room to accommodate your own superpowers and the special sauce that makes you you and will make the work better. So if you're in a leadership role, my biggest hope is that you show up as your authentic human self, not just for yourself, but for your team and for the world as well. That's me. Thanks.
Holy schmoly. That was amazing, Morgs. And you just you hit me in the feels a lot then. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself. And I'm kind of in awe of how vulnerable and real everyone has been today. Thank you. Cool.